or so, the ever-evolving reckless tax and spending spree bill proposed by the Democrats, it continues to change because they can't seem to figure out how to put together something that might pass in the House and the Senate, and finding it increasingly difficult, I think, to try and contain the cost of all the things they want to do, which is why they continue to build in gimmicks and phony math to try and accommodate all the crazy spending in this bill, and then also the massive run-up in taxes. This bill is the largest spending increase we've seen in history, largest tax increase in history, and we're finding out now is also going to add significantly to the federal debt, because there's a recent study by Penn Wharton which suggests that the overall cost of the bill, when fully implemented, would be $3.9 trillion, and that the revenues that are proposed to be raised to pay for it only generate about $1.5 trillion. So that leaves you with a $2.4 trillion delta that obviously would be added to the deficit and put on the debt. So not only does this spend enormous amounts of money, unprecedented amounts of money, it raises unprecedented amount of revenue, but even at that level, the revenue is totally inadequate and insufficient to cover that spending, and therefore it will add massively to the federal debt. That, according to an economic analysis done by Penn Wharton here just in the last couple of days. But this is the most recent addition to that bill in the House of Representatives. They would raise the SALT cap, the state and local tax deduction cap, from $10,000 to $72,500. And it will also extend that higher cap through 2031 beyond its scheduled expiration after 2025. So they're still trying to come up with a way, if you can believe this, the massive amount of spending, massive amount of taxing is now added to that a tax cut, a huge tax cut for rich people. According to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, if you look at the tax cuts to rich people. So just think about that, Mr. President, from the side that always says that our side is looking out for rich people, trying to cut taxes for the rich. They are proposing and have included now in the House version of the reckless tax and spending spree bill a provision that would provide tax cuts to rich people. In fact, 80% of that tax cut, 80% would go to people who are making more than $200,000 a year. 2.5% would go to people making less than $100,000 a year. So much for looking out for the little guy in this bill. This is a huge part of the bill. In fact, this is the most expensive provision of the bill, and that's up against all the other spending that the Democrats want to do on new government programs and expanding government, the biggest expansion of government in decades. But included now in the bill, not only is that massive expansion of spending on lots of crazy new ideas and trillions of dollars in new taxes that will be imposed upon the economy, but now there is a provision in there that will cut taxes, 80% of that benefit going to people making more than $200,000 a year, and cut taxes on a scale that makes this the largest, most expensive provision in the entire reckless tax and spending spree bill. That's what we're talking about with this particular provision, Mr. President. So just want to point that out, because this is an evolving bill. We're seeing new language every day, new ideas every day, and some really horrible ideas have come out in the last few weeks, some of which have gone away simply because there aren't even Democrats who will vote for them. But this is one, obviously, that is going to benefit rich people across this country on a level unlike anything else in the bill, as is suggested by the overall cost of the provision and the way that it distributes among income categories. 80%, let me repeat, 80% of the benefit of this tax cut in the tax and spending spree is going to go to people making more than $200,000 a year. 2.5% of this tax cut will go to people making less than $100,000 a year.